as the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people. As the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people. Surround us, Lord. Surround us, O Lord. We need to be in your presence. Surround us, Lord. As the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people. As the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people. Surround us, Lord. Surround us, O Lord. We need to be in your presence. Surround us, Lord. Surround us, Lord. Surround us, O Lord. We need to be in your presence. Surround us, Lord. Surround us, Lord.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to say that I miss y'all and I hope we can gather again soon and that I'm thinking about you.
I just want to thank you all for all your support during this time. It's been really uncertain, but I'm glad we had you there behind us.
Hey y'all, I love and miss y'all so much. Thank you for all your thoughts and prayers. Go Wildcats!
Hey, I miss all of you. Thank you so much for your support during these tough times.
I'd like to thank the Southwest Church family for helping me become a better Christian and getting me where I am today. It's helping me throughout everything. And I'd like to thank Adrian Morgan for always just taking care of me and the other seniors. And thank you, Quinn and Ashley, being my house parents and helping me to accomplish what I've done. Thank you very much.
Hey guys, missing y'all.
Hey, can't wait to come back to church. I miss everyone.
Hi everybody, miss you!
Hey church, this is Nathan Collier. I just miss y'all guys so much. I can't wait to be back at church. Thank y'all.
Hey Southwest, thank you guys.
Hey Southwest, thank you so much for all the support for all the seniors. Hope y'all are staying safe and healthy, and we hope to see you soon.
Congratulations to the class of 2020.
Good morning, church, and welcome to our online offering for May 24th, 2020. We're glad that you could join us online this morning. I loved seeing our seniors in their caps and gowns and class of 2020. We are proud of you, and we haven't forgotten you. Church, we are planning on a special event for our seniors in late June to celebrate them as we usually would in our Senior Sunday. But church, I'd encourage you to not forget our seniors. You may know that this is the weekend that our seniors would have graduated in their graduation ceremonies, but they're hopefully going to get one down the road. Church, keep checking in and letting us know that you're here. Share our service on Facebook. You can hit the share button on our Facebook feed and share that on your Facebook timeline to invite others. Remember, the more you share, the more chance there is of the message of Jesus getting to more people. We had so many that shared it last week, and we thank you for that. Keep on doing it. Let's see if we can set a record for how many shares we get. And if you'll comment on our Facebook page just to let us know that you're with us and that you're worshiping with us this morning, we'd love that. Visitors, you can visit letusknow.southwest.org, and you can let us know that you're here, and you can ask any questions about our church that you want to. But thank you for being with us this week. I heard from another former member from South Dakota last week that's been watching our service, and so it's good to hear from former members. Actually, I've heard from several former members that are worshiping with us. You might hear my dog snoring in the background. That's what we get when we have worship at our house, so hope that doesn't bother you too much. Keep checking our website, our midweek video, the Friday 5, and our bulletin for the latest information on the church family. We are now in phase 1 of reopening our church building, but phase 1, remember, is worshiping in homes. So some of our members are worshiping with smaller groups in their homes. I hope some of you are doing that this morning. We want you to be safe in that. For all the information on that, go to our Friday 5 and our midweek video. Those are the best places to find that information. And check those each week. We have a special anniversary this week that we're celebrating on May 28th. Larry and Marita Collier celebrate 54 years. So if you know them, Larry and Marita, we say happy anniversary to you, and we normally have them stand now. But please send them a card and encourage them right now. I know that that would be a huge encouragement to both of them. Also, in these strange times, we don't want to forget to bless some of our longtime members who are now getting married. They're growing up and getting married. We're having a shower for Madison Moore. She's getting married to Brendan Pearson on May 31st. She's not getting married on May 31st. They're having the shower on May 31st. They're following social distancing guidelines. All the details of that is in your bulletin this week, so go online and look at our bulletin. But don't forget, let's bless this young couple. And now for our worship, as always, I remind you to pause and have great conversations with your family that you wouldn't be able to do if we were all together in our worship service. Now, some of my friends were giving me a hard time this week because I say this every week, and because every week it busts them. Every week I say, check your posture and lean forward. And I do that because it's important for us to remember when we're in our homes, we're not just watching like we would watch TV. We are engaging in worship with the Father. So check your posture, lean in, and worship together. This morning, again, we had so much good feedback last week to our Swing Low song that our family wanted to do another children's song. So we're going to sing Wrapped Up, Tied Up, and This Little Light. So you've got to stand to sing these songs. Do the motions with them. Children, we are so glad you're worshiping with your family in your homes. Keep on doing it. Let's sing together.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine all the time, let it shine, oh yeah. I'm all wrapped up, I'm all tied up, I'm all tangled up in Jesus. I'm all wrapped up, I'm all tied up, I'm all tangled up in God. I'm all wrapped up, I'm all tied up, I'm all tangled up in Jesus. I'm all wrapped up, tied up, tangled up in God, oh yeah. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine all the time, let it shine, oh yeah. I'm all wrapped up, I'm all tied up, I'm all taken up in Jesus. I'm all wrapped up, I'm all tied up, I'm all taken up in God. I'm all wrapped up, I'm all tied up, I'm all taken up in Jesus. I'm all wrapped up, tied up, taken up in God, oh yeah. Don't let Satan put it out. I'm gonna let it shine. Don't let Satan put it out. I'm gonna let it shine. Don't let Satan put it out. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine all the time. Let it shine. Oh yeah. No, wrapped up on telephone. Take it up in Jesus. All wrapped up on telephone. Take it up in God. All wrapped up on telephone. Take it up in Jesus. All wrapped up. Take it up in God. Oh yeah.
Good morning, Southwest Church of Christ. We're social isolating up here in Chama. We got the privilege of reading to you today, Psalms 100. I'd like to introduce...
we're the Hammers. I'm Emily Hammer. This is Jacoby Hammer. And this is Katie Hammer. And of course, you've already met Eric.
Hello. All right, so Psalms 100, here we go. Shout for the joy to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs. Know that the Lord is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. Enter the gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. For the Lord is good and his love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all generations.
We miss you, Southwest.
Love you.
The God of the heavens, the God of the heavens, the Ancient of Days, the Ancient of Days, the God of our Father, the God of our Father, and God of our praise, and God of our praise, the Alpha Omega, the Alpha Omega, beginning and end, forever and ever, forever and ever, your kingdom will stand, your kingdom will stand. We come to bow before you now. We come to lay our lives down. We will have no other gods before you. Nothing on earth will come before your throne. You are the sovereign I am, and you reign in our hearts alone. We will exalt you on high forever, King of all kings and the Lord of all lords. We will have no other gods before you. Our Maker, Creator, our Maker, Creator, before time began, before time began, Messiah and Savior, Messiah and Savior, Redeemer and friend, Redeemer and friend, our Rock of salvation, our Rock of salvation, so faithful and true, so faithful and true. We give all the glory, we give all the glory, and honor to you, and honor to you. For you alone are worthy of our never-ending love. We will have no other gods before you. Nothing on earth will come before your throne. You are the sovereign I am, and you reign in our hearts alone. We will exalt you on high forever, King of all kings and the Lord of all lords. We will have no other gods before you. Let the King of my heart be the mountain where I run, the fountain I drink from, oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life, oh, he is my song. You are good, good, Lord. 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 Let the King of my heart be the wind inside my sails, the anchor in the waves, oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days, oh, he is my song. You are good, good, Lord. You are good, good, Lord. never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. 'Cause you are good, good, Lord. You are good, good, Lord. You are good. Night is holding on to me. You are God is holding Lord. You are night is holding on to me. You are God is holding Lord. When the night is holding on to me, God is holding on. When the night is holding on to me, God is holding on. 'Cause you are good, good, Lord. You are good, good, Lord. You are night is holding on to me. You are God is holding Lord. You are night is holding on to me. You are God is holding Lord.
We'll be reading at Psalm 119, verse 33. Teach me, O Lord, to follow your decrees, then I will keep them to the end. Give me understanding, and I will keep your law and obey it with all my heart. Direct me in the path of your commands, for there I find delight. Turn my heart towards your statutes, and not towards selfish gain. Turn my eyes away from worthless things. Renew my life according to your word. Fulfill your promise to your servant, so that you may be feared. Take away the disgrace I dread, for your laws are good. How I long for your precepts. Renew my life in your righteousness.
Pure in heart, O God, help me to be. May I devote my life wholly to thee. Watch thou my wayward feet, guide me with counsel sweet, pure in heart, help me to be. Pure in heart, O God, help me to be. Teach me to do thy will, most lovingly. Be thou my friend and guide. Let me with thee abide. Pure in heart, help me to be. Pure in heart, O God, help me to be. That I thy holy face one day may see. Keep me from secret sin. Reign thou my soul within. Pure in heart, help strength to hear your call. May my steps be worship, may my thoughts be praise, may my words bring honor to your name. Oh, may my steps be worship, may my thoughts be praise, may my words bring honor to your name. Here I am, just for today. Live in me, have your way, for my desire, when this race is run, is only to hear you say, well done. May my steps be worship, may my thoughts be praise, may my words bring honor to your name. Oh, may my steps be worship, may my thoughts be praise, may my words bring honor to your name.
Good morning, church. I hope this finds you in good spirits and healthy. Before we get started on our actual communion thoughts this morning, I wanted to take just a second and remind you that during this time of relative isolation from each other, let's remember to focus on the fact that we are in fact communing together. Even though we're physically apart, this act of communion is one that we participate in collectively and should feel a sense of connectedness through this, even though we have had a hard time connecting with each other over the past few months. So, for those of you who know me well, you will not be surprised by the fact that we're going to start with a little bit of random trivia this morning. So, a troika is a Russian wagon that is pulled by 3 horses side by side by side. You know, in Western wagons, the wagons are pulled by pairs of horses, 1 pair, 2 pair, 3 pair. But the troika has 3 going across. And so what I'd ask you to do is imagine Jesus at the reins of this metaphorical troika. And I don't think it would be too much of a stretch of the imagination to envision grace, love, and forgiveness being the 3 horses pulling Jesus's wagon. Now, I know in West Texas, Russian trivia isn't our deal. So I know we prefer the colloquialism that references who or what we're hitching our wagon to. And so we'll stick with that. I'll circle back around to the wagons. The last couple of months have been pretty stressful for all of us. Now, I firmly believe that stress magnifies who you are and what you believe. It brings those things to the surface. It clears away the excess and the falsehoods. It also shows us very clearly what has been pulling our wagons. Based on what I have seen and heard on social media and the news, and in person, quite frankly, there are a lot of us that have hitched our wagons to fear and resentment and bitterness. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not wagging my finger at you. I may be the chief sinner among us, so don't feel like you're being reprimanded. This is me talking to myself and hoping you can get something out of it. There are 2 verses from our reading in 1 Kings 19 that really jumped out to me in reference to this. In verse 4, Elijah says, "I have had enough. And then in verse 7, God says to Elijah, get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you. Man, those two short sentences genuinely resonated with me right now. I'm tired and I'm stressed, and I am really questioning whether this segment of the journey may be too much for me right now. Now, I know it seems like it, but this message wasn't meant to bring you down or to bum you out. In fact, it's actually the exact opposite. So here's how we'll turn the corner and get to the bright side. We have to constantly remember, or in my case, be reminded of the fact that because of Jesus's grace and love and forgiveness, we have the power to stop the wagon and unhook from whatever detrimental forces that have been defining us and take the time to take on the yoke of Jesus. We all remember the memory verse from Matthew 11. Take my yoke and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your soul. Sounds good right now. Rest for my soul. What I would ask of you today is, what three horses are your wagon hitched to right now? And what's preventing you from unhooking and hooking to the grace, love, and forgiveness that Jesus freely offers? Miss you guys and love you guys. Have a great day.
This is my desire, to honor you. Lord, with all my heart, I worship you, I worship you. All that is within me, I give you praise. All that I adore is in you, is in you. Lord, I give you my heart, I give you my soul. I live for you alone. Every breath that I take, every moment I'm awake. Lord, have your way in me. This is my desire, to honor you. Lord, with all my heart, I worship you, I worship you. All that is within me, I give you praise. All that I adore is in you, is in you. Lord, I give you my heart, I give you my soul. I live for you alone. Every breath that I take, every moment I'm awake. Lord, have your way in me. Lord, I give you my heart, I give you my soul. I live for you alone. Every breath that I take, every moment I'm awake. Lord, have your way in me. Lord, have your way in me.
Hello, church family and friends who are joining us once again for our worship online. Everyone, you're just most welcome. Hey, listen, I want to start right off the bat here by encouraging all of you, any of you who haven't decided to join us in our Southwest 2020 Bible Project. I really want to encourage you and invite you to join us. Really, truth be told, I want to insist that you join us. I know I can't insist you join us. We're all our own people and we're free. We do what we want, but it feels unloving to me to not just look at you and say, I really, really encourage you and want you to join us. Let me explain by telling you another story where I felt this feeling. A lot of you know I go on big trips, one big trip every summer with one of my kids, and I rotate through them. And one of the big trips that I took was with my oldest son, Shade, when he was in high school. We went overlanding. I didn't even know what overlanding was until he told me that's what he wanted to do. So we started planning and saving up for it. Who knew you can take your four-wheel drive vehicle and there are routes that you can go on all over the world where you drive and you camp and you drive and you camp and you explore. So we chose an overlanding route in Colorado up in the mountains. And one of the agendas we had was to go up this little side trail just up as high as we could in his truck at the foot of Mount Handies, a 14,000 foot peak there in Colorado that we wanted to park and try to get up to the top of and back down in a day. And so we set out with our day packs, and we saw some beautiful sights. But we get up above the tree line, and boy, we're pretty exhausted in that altitude and all of that. And so we sit down once again on a rock, and we're resting, and Shade says, Dad, I think I'm done. Why don't you, if you want to go up to the top and sign the log and take your pictures, and I'll just be here when you get back. And I mean, I've got a few years on Shade, so I'm feeling what he's feeling. And honestly, it was awful tempting sitting there comfortably on that rock to just say, hey, this is beautiful enough, let's go down. But I've also climbed a few 14ers in my life, and I know what it is to push through that wall and to continue on the trek all the way to the top. There's just a lot of reward to it. So I stand up and I say, Shade, no, we've got to go and finish this trek and get all the way to the top. And I insisted. Now, of course, I couldn't insist. He had to decide to get up and decide to come with me all the way to the top. And we did. And to this day, I asked him before I recorded, to this day, he'll say, yes, absolutely, it was worth it. So that's kind of how I feel, that it was loving to insist that he continue. Just like God had all kinds of special sights and gifts for us on that trek up to the summit of Mount Handies, God has all kinds of special sights and gifts for you if you will trek through the story of God through Scripture. And so I really hope you'll join us, or if you started well and you've fallen off, just pick right back up. You don't even need to catch up. Just start off. You can get the schedule right here on this website. And there are handy links right there. You can go right to each day's assignment, whether it's a video or it's a Bible reading. Just a couple of chapters a day or a 7 or 8 minute video. I really encourage you to do it. In that same spot, you can sign up for a weekly email. That's what I did. So I get my weekly email Monday morning, and it has the links just right there conveniently in that email. So friends, join us. You will not regret it. Sometimes it does seem like work, just like mountain climbing, okay? I'm just saying it's worth it. All right, now, in this last week's reading, and I always pick something from the last week's reading to teach from, so you'll already know my source material each week when you join us here. We finished up the reign of King Solomon over the nation of Israel. Now, you'll notice that things really started picking up this week in terms of pace. I mean, Solomon, we just met him last week, and now we're finishing with him this week. And that's after 4 straight weeks of getting to know the character King David, Solomon's dad. But you might as well buckle in because things really pick up from here. In this last week's reading, which was just 10 chapters, not only do we finish Solomon's reign, but we cover 11 more kings, okay, in total in this week's reading. And we only slow down on one king, King Ahab, towards the end, long enough to meet the next major character in the book of 1 Kings, and that's the great prophet Elijah. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself here because I want to pause here and say it's important for you to know why Solomon's reign finished up badly. I think there's an application for us. Now, you'll remember his dad, King David, was known as a man after God's own heart, even though he made mistakes, like big mistakes. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord. There's no sugarcoating that. However, David never left his full-hearted devotion to God. Even when he fell, he always returned because he had this full-hearted devotion to God. And that's God's biggest deal. Okay? He has a lot of grace, but he really wants us to serve and worship and follow him alone. David did that, and unfortunately, Solomon didn't inherit that quality. At least he didn't carry it into his reign as a king. At best, Solomon could be said to have had a divided heart. Okay? Because he ended up worshiping other gods from the surrounding territory. Now, it's 1 Kings chapter 11. We won't read the whole thing, but I'll read a few just to give you a sense of how this happened, because it's explained there. Starting in verse 1, it says, King Solomon loved many foreign women, Egyptian, Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, Hittite. And as Solomon grew old, his wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father had been. So a little bit later it says that God spoke to Solomon. He said, so the Lord said to Solomon, since this is your attitude, I will most certainly tear the kingdom away from you and give it to one of your subordinates. Nevertheless, for the sake of David your father, I will not do it during your lifetime. I will tear it from the hand of your son. Yet, I will not tear the whole kingdom from him, but will give him one tribe for the sake of David and for the sake of Jerusalem, both of which I have chosen. So, from this point forward, Israel becomes a divided nation, and that's important to point out here. So Rehoboam is Solomon's son, and he's going to be the one that inherits the one nation of Judah. That's David's nation. Rehoboam is a son of David. He will remain in Jerusalem. That's where Jerusalem is. Eventually, Benjamin will join Judah, and those two tribes will make up the southern nation, which takes on the name of Judah. And now Jeroboam, not Rehoboam, but Jeroboam was the subordinate of Solomon that was going to become king of the other 10 tribes in the north. And they would retain the name of Israel. So from here on out, nation of Israel is the northern kingdom, nation of Judah is the southern kingdom. Now Jeroboam was in charge of Solomon's workforce, okay? But I want you to hear how Jeroboam found out he was going to become king of 10 of the 12 tribes of Israel. So there was this prophet named Ahijah. And Ahijah met up with Jeroboam when he was traveling somewhere. And it says, we're still in chapter 11, starting in verse 30. This is how he found out. Ahijah took a hold of the new cloak he was wearing, and he tore it. He tore it into 12 pieces, okay? And he took that, and then he tells Jeroboam, take 10 of these pieces of my robe that I've been wearing, okay, as this priest. Take 10 of them, and that's what's going to happen. That's what's happening. See, I'm going to tear the kingdom of Solomon's hand, tear the kingdom out of Solomon's hand, and give you 10 tribes. So just hold on to this imagery for later, but I want you to see how Solomon's divided heart resulted in a divided kingdom. And you saw it in verse 1 of chapter 11. He was divided in heart because of his love for his wives that he had invited in. He literally married. He didn't just invite them into their life. He married them. And so he cared about them. And so he cared about what they cared about. And they didn't care about God. They cared about their own gods. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pause and I want you to discuss a pretty important application to this teaching, I believe. So the first question is, how can your choices about who you hang out with tempt you to have a divided heart? Okay, in other words, who you hang out with matters. It doesn't have to be wives. For Solomon, it was his wives, but it's anyone that you invite into your orbit. We end up being like who we're around more often than not. And so I want you to discuss that. How can your choices concerning who you hang out with threaten to divide your heart between God and other things, other priorities? Okay, so that's the first question I want you to discuss, and maybe you need to just talk about how that has been true in your past. Maybe you've gotten over that. The next question is, I want you to be honest and answer this with each other. Do you have two kingdoms in your life? Like, are there two kingdoms in your life? Or maybe in the past, have you had two kingdoms in your life? You know what I'm talking about? Do you have like your church friends with whom you act one way, and then other friends with whom you act another way? Do you have certain environments, maybe church environments, where you are fully devoted to God, but then you have other environments, maybe work or play or whatever in the world, and you've got some other priorities that float to the top? So I want you to discuss that, because that's a very easy thing to fall into. And you know, it might not be that you have Christian friends and non-Christian friends and that's your deal. You may have all Christian friends, but do you and some of your Christian friends have this little wink-wink deal where you'll act a certain way when you're at church environments, but you'll act another way when you're out in the world together? That's also having two kingdoms, and it's easy to fall into. As a matter of fact, I don't know anyone who hasn't, including me. So I really want you to talk about that and how you see that playing out, and or how it did play out in your life. After you have that conversation with each other, I want you to open up to 1 Kings chapter 18, and I want you to read verses 17 through 40. This is an enormously entertaining chapter that describes this contest between the prophet Elijah, who I want you to meet, and King Ahab, which is really a contest between Yahweh, God, and Baal, who is Ahab's wife's God. So he suffered from the same divided heart that Solomon did. But I want you to see when God confronts this attitude. But that's for later. Have your conversation and read this. One more thing. You might divide this up, this reading up. Have one person be the narrator and one person be Elijah, just for variety's sake. There's maybe 2 lines for the people. There's maybe a line for King Ahab. I think he starts the chapter with 1 line. You can have people read those too if you want, or the narrator just can. But have fun with it. Enjoy this story. And the person who's being Elijah needs to be someone who's really good at being sarcastic and mocking other people, because that'll be important in this chapter. Enjoy it, and then we'll finish up when you come back. I hope you enjoyed that chapter. You know, that chapter, along with another chapter we read earlier in the project, between the epic battle between Goliath and David. I mean, those 2 chapters read like scenes in a movie. I just think they're really good. So I hope you enjoyed that. And there's so much there to explore. But I just want to stay on our theme of the divided heart that we're exploring. In verse 21, you remember Elijah, he's not talking to Ahab, he's not talking to the prophets of Baal, he's talking to the people of Israel. The people of God is the real target audience in this big performance that he has set up. He says, how long will you waver between 2 opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. If Baal is God, follow him. And that phrase in the NIV, which is what we're reading, this phrase, waver between 2 opinions. I looked at some other versions, and here's some different ways it's said. Limping with 2 opinions, straddling the issue, sitting on the fence. We're familiar with that phrase. Hobbling between the 2 sides. We get what God's after here, right? He is after the people of God. He wants them to be decisive, and he wants them to be decisive towards him. He wants them to he knows what's best for them, and he wants to care for them, and he doesn't want to entrust them and their care and their provision and their hearts to anything or anyone else in the world. And so he's not just wanting them to have this undivided heart for him for his own purposes, like he's selfish. It's for his glory, but his glory is good for those people because he knows how he built them and he knows what they need. So you get the point here. In Elijah's prayer in verse 36, it states overtly the purpose of this contest. It says, "O Lord, let it be known today that you are God. Answer my prayer so that these people will know that you, O Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again." I love that phrase because that really connects us to what God is still trying to do today. He's trying to let people know that he's God, and he's trying to turn the whole world's hearts back to them, back to him, including yours, wherever it's divided. And this, just like all stories in Scripture, we've learned, it points us so clearly to the mission of Jesus on the cross, doesn't it? See, God is glad to prove himself, not just in this part of the story, but in the larger story. And in no uncertain terms, as we follow this narrative to Jesus, we're going to find out that God loves you so much that he will send his own son to die for your sins, for your divided heart, just so that he can remain in intimate relationship with you. Jesus actually says something in his ministry that echoes this call towards this undivided heart. It's in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 6. It says, "No one can serve two masters. Either he'll hate the one and love the other, or he'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and..." Now he says money here, okay? That's what he talks about. And that's probably one that we could all fill in that blank, but I'm going to leave that blank there for you to consider. What would you fill in there? What is your heart divided between God and what? Because Jesus says you can't serve two masters. You need one God. The good news is God is full of grace, and he never stops pursuing you. Even in the Old Testament, he never stopped pursuing those Israelites, even though their hearts were so divided. So even when bad kings led Israel astray, God sent this prophet Elijah to come in and show them again that their earthly king isn't always worthy of their allegiance, at least in terms of what they worship and who they follow and who they imitate. Only God is. So he's not looking to destroy Israel. He's looking to turn their hearts back again. So there's one more connection between this story and Jesus that I want to end with. And this takes us right to Jesus on that cross, okay? John chapter 19, there's 4 books in the New Testament that tell the story of Jesus: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And each of them depict the cross, of course, the crucifixion of Jesus, where he died for our sins. But John adds a detail that's going on at the foot of the cross among the soldiers that crucified him that the other 3 don't add. And it says this in John 19, it says, "When the soldiers crucified Jesus, they took his clothes and they divided them into 4 shares, one for each of them, with the undergarment remaining. This garment was seamless, woven in one piece from top to bottom. 'Let's not tear it,' they said. 'Let's decide by lot who will get it.'" Okay, so I've never had a good explanation or even a palatable explanation for why this detail is in John. Nothing in John explains why he told us that detail, that there was this one garment that Jesus was wearing that didn't get torn, okay? There's no reason for it. I know that the garments being divided, everything being divided between the soldiers was a prophecy in the Old Testament, but it mentions nothing about this one garment that didn't get torn. But I think we may have a little insight here. Do you remember earlier how Ahijah, he went to Jeroboam and he took the garment off of him as a prophet of God and he tore it into 12 pieces to explain how that divided heart resulted in this divided kingdom? I wonder if John is using just a little Jewish code for his Jewish readers, okay? That would know this story and they would be taken to torn garments when they read about the gospel of Jesus and how his garment that he is our high priest and as our king was wearing and how it didn't get ripped. That maybe this was a little Jewish code, a message saying that this king is worthy. This king is sinless. This king is undivided in his commitment to you, and you can, in an undivided way, be committed to him and give your undivided heart to him. I don't know if that's what it means, but it's a neat thought, and it makes sense to me. You can, church, too. You can give your heart to God in an undivided way. It's the most safe, the most secure, and the most exciting place for you to lay your heart down. So as we finish today, I just want you to turn to David's prayer book, the book of Psalms, and I want you to read just a few verses out of Psalm 86, okay, verses 11 through 13. After you read those, and you'll see why I want you to read those, I want you to go to verse 13, and I want you to share, just briefly, how has God shown you, verse 13. Then I want you to back up to verse 12, and I want you to share how you've shown God, verse 12. And then just take those same 3 verses, bow together, and pray this prayer to God with a whole heart. I love you, church. Have a great day.